My unit! Hopefully you guys are already rocking out the start of this weekend. As you know by now, I returned to the channel yesterday, shortened up my time off for many reasons. And I said if I'm back, allow me to get a lot off my chest as it pertains to the pro wrestling world, and that's exactly what I did in yesterday's video. But I also said to myself, if I'm back, I'm not gonna be back in a half-ass way, I'm gonna be back full throttle. Hence, a Friday afternoon impromptu video for you guys. So hopefully you guys have at least 20 minutes to talk some pro wrestling with the Amplified Man. If not, I totally understand. Go about your business, come back later tonight. The video will be here and we'll talk some pro wrestling. Because there are topics I want to discuss. Some of them not in great length, but I at least want to go over them. Like Vince McMahon, he has a new pet project over there on the Raw brand. It's not a new superstar, but it's a new toy, a new flavor of the month for Vince McMahon. And I kind of have to ask the question, is this just a reactionary decision based on past mistakes with a former superstar in that company? And now Vince is kind of trying to correct his wrongs, but is it a little too late? We'll discuss. On the flip side of it all, and on the other side of the spectrum, the AEW side of things, Tony Khan, the lead guy at their helm. Is his role with AEW already starting to diminish? Tony Khan is about to undertake something huge in 2020 that has nothing to do with AEW, and it leads the speculation and it begs the question, as far as day-to-day operations go, is Tony Khan going to be even further removed from those decisions? We're going to talk about that as well. Goldberg is finally speaking out about the whole Bret Hart situation in the match that began the end of Bret Hart's career. We'll talk about if that was a botch or was Goldberg... should he have never been in that match? Back then, people called him Greenberg, and they put him in there with somebody like Bret Hart, who was already at the tail end of his career. Well, Goldberg's kind of speaking out, and we'll kind of weigh out our judgments on the whole deal as well. But before we get to all of that, again, that'll just be some kind of rapid-fire type shit later on. The bulk of this video is just Andrade defeating Mysterio last night at a house show in Madison Square Garden, Manhattan, New York City. Andrade becomes the United States champion. Zelina Vega, happier than a pig in shit. That's her hometown, her backyard. And the reception that Andrade and Zelina got the entire match, not just post-match, was really fucking solid. The crowd was hot for Andrade and Zelina. But you talk about being 24 hours removed, 24 hours after Christmas, and Andrade and Zelina get the best present they possibly could have gotten. What a difference a day makes. What a difference a week makes, right? Just a week ago, we were seeing animosity and a strained relationship between Zelina and Andrade, and all of us were thinking, no, they fit perfectly together. What are you doing, Vince? And then here we are, and they're winning gold last night. And for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, yes, at a house show last night, every single year, the day after Christmas, WWE puts on a huge house show in New York City, Manhattan, Madison Square Garden. It's one of their biggest house shows of the year because they know New York City is their main market. Even outside of Chicago, New York City is Vince McMahon's backyard. That's his big market. So he tries to get everybody to spend money on tickets for the holidays, right? Whether it's for your kids or your significant other or for yourself, you're going to treat yourself to a big Christmas present. And the day after Christmas, they hold this huge house show in Madison Square Garden. This is every single year, the day after Christmas. And it's usually a big house show, but you don't expect titles to change hands. Well, that's what happened last night. It was Andrade, it was Mysterio. At the end of this match, Andrade hit the hammerlock DDT, and Rey Mysterio was unable to kick out of it. Rey Mysterio drops his championship. Post-match, Mysterio got on the mic and basically apologized to New York City for not bringing his A game, for basically dropping the ball, and New York City deserved better than that. So that was really, Mysterio manned up. I like the whole segment of not just dropping the championship, but the post-match mic spewing of Rey Mysterio as well. I liked it all. That would have been something that would have been cool on TV, but unfortunately, 99.99% of the WWE audience or pro wrestling fan base wasn't able to see it. You had to go back and watch clips, obviously, if they're even out there. But if you're wondering if the Amplified Man, because I was back Did I show up to this? No, because guys, I don't feel that WWE has earned my money or time. In the past several years, I don't feel like they have earned my time or money. And that's why I did not show up to that house show. It's not that I didn't think it was going to be a fun atmosphere and that the boys and gals weren't going to put on a kick-ass show. Because I knew it was going to be a fun atmosphere. It's NYC, the day after Christmas. They're going to be rowdy and ready to rock. And I knew the boys and gals within that roster and on that roster, they were going to bring it. And I knew it was going to be a solid card. All of these things, check mark. Absolutely. I just don't feel WWE has earned my time or money. And I gotta stay true to myself, you know? So no, I didn't show up. I did see some things though, some clips and some good friends of mine that were there. A lot of good friends of mine actually that were there. They were sending me some pics and vids. So yeah, the atmosphere was absolutely electric. And for Andrade and for Zelina, what a moment, what a Christmas present for them. Again, Zelina, that's her backyard. She grew up right there in New York City. And Andrade, this has been a moment that has been long overdue. But that raises the question, right? It begs the question, and it raises the debate. Should titles change hands at house shows? No matter how big the house show is, no matter what market you are in, whether it be New York City or Chicago or somewhere in fucking Colorado. It doesn't matter. Should titles change hands? I can see both sides of the argument, right? On one side, you're saying business-wise, that helps drive in revenue, right? You're going to make people think, anything can happen at house shows, at live events. I have to show up. What if a title changes hands tonight? So I totally understand that side of it. On the other side of it, though, you're making the title holder who's about to drop the title, you're making his whole title reign less relevant. Right? All of it was for what? Whether you held the title for 30 days or 300 days. What was it all for? You just held it in a moment that A, made you look irrelevant, but B, most of the world didn't even see the title holder, the new championship reigner. Nobody even saw him win it. You gotta go try to find clips. You gotta hope that WWE television replays it with one of their B or C cameras. So it makes everything less relevant. So I do understand that side of the argument as well, right? On one hand, hey, anything can happen, and what a cool, spontaneous moment it is. But on the other hand, it diminishes the value of the former title holder and the guy who just won the championship, or gal. So I understand both sides of the argument. This isn't the first time this has happened, guys. This has happened several times in WWE's history, obviously. Some of the most notable ones, remember just 2 years ago, it was July 2017 when AJ Styles defeated Kevin Owens. I believe that was for the same United States Championship. That was at a house show, July 2017, and that was replayed several times on WWE television. I kind of remember back to a couple of years ago, and it was a spontaneous moment, no doubt. But we were all kind of raising the same question. All of Kevin Owens' reign was to drop it at a house show. It felt less meaningful. So I do remember feeling that way as well. I don't know, you mix the good with the bad, I guess. You remember Edge defeating Jeff Jarrett in Toronto in 1999. I believe that was for the Intercontinental Championship. That was at a house show in Toronto. Mickey James won the Women's Championship, or maybe it was the Divas Championship back then, but that was in Paris, France. You guys remember that? So Mickey James actually defeated Melina and Victoria. That was at a house show. Samoa Joe in Massachusetts, I believe it was Lowell. He defeated Finn Balor for the NXT Championship. Balor at that point had held it for what? Nearly 300 days, I think? 297? Samoa Joe just beat him in Lowell, Massachusetts at a house show. That was for the NXT Championship. These are just some of the most memorable title changes at house shows. Obviously, right there at the top is Kevin Nash Diesel when he beat Bob Backlund in that same building that Andrade just defeated Rey Mysterio last night, Madison Square Garden. Diesel defeated Bob Backlund in Madison Square Garden in 8 seconds for the WWE Championship. So that's one of the most notable title changes. But I can go on and on with other ones that maybe weren't as less significant. But the bottom line is this is something that Vince has done often, and in one way it does protect the business. I'm not going to lie. It shows you that if a title is on the line on any given night, it can change hands. And not everything is just choreographed to the same pinpoint every single night. Right? On any given night, things could be changed up. So I totally understand that. But I absolutely agree with the other side of the fan spectrum as well. When they're kind of pissed off. Like, that was the title reign for Mysterio. That was the title reign for Bob Backlund. That was the title reign for Jeff Jarrett. That was the title reign for Finn Balor. Almost 300 days and nobody even sees it get switched. Nobody sees him get defeated. The big payoff was just for a few thousand people in attendance. So I understand that side of it as well. How do you guys feel about it, man? What side are you on? You know, because it's been a debate that has been happening for years. And I just went over some of the history with you guys. The Bob Backlund, Kevin Nash thing, that was years and years ago. What, over 20 years ago? 2 decades ago? And every time it happens, this question in these debates rise, and for good justified reasons, you know? You look at a big moment for Andrade, you were hoping it was going to be on television for the world to see, or at a pay-per-view. But instead, it's at a house show, you know? And beggars can't be choosers. At least Andrade has this moment, and with Zelina, and they're in New York City, and what a Christmas present for them, and again, it's long overdue. So yeah, beggars won't be choosers on this morning. Andrade gets the championship, and that's awesome for him. I don't know what it says about Mysterio, but it does show you how much Vince is into this Andrade versus Humberto feud, and now he wants a championship on the line. And Vince is so high on Humberto, you might see Humberto actually win that U.S. championship. So we saw a little bit of hot potato. Mysterio holds it for not even a month, or maybe just over a month. And then it goes to Andrade, and then it's probably going to go right over to Humberto. And then maybe then is where you'll see Zelina and Andrade split up. I don't want to see that. Zelina belongs with Andrade and vice versa. And if you heard that pop last night in MSG, you're damn right. They shouldn't be removed from one another. But a huge night for Andrade last night. He defeats Mysterio via the Hammerlock DDT. Just to go over some more action last night, guys, in case you're wondering, because it was a stacked card. I'll go over the rest of the results for you. The main event, Rollins defeated Owens in a no-holds-barred match. Post-match, the AOP was all over Owens until Samoa Joe made the save. The end of the night was Samoa Joe and Kevin Owens kind of celebrating in the ring. Well, not really celebrating, but reigning supreme. So Samoa Joe, it looks like, is full-fledged face. I don't know how I feel about that. But Owens and Samoa as a team, pretty fucking cool. Aleister Black defeated Buddy Murphy via Black Mass. Ricochet defeated Bobby Lashley. This was supposed to be Rusev and Lashley, but Lana obtained another restraining order, so it never happened. And may I just add, Lana had more heat than a summer day in Florida, man. New York was all over that. R-Truth defeated the Singh brothers in a handicap match, and at one point, every participant, both Singh brothers and R-Truth, had won the 24/7, 48-11, 52-65 championship. Everybody got a crack at it and held it for a moment last night. Becky Lynch ended up winning a triple threat steel cage match over Charlotte and Asuka, and this was a very smart decision by WWE here to have Charlotte take the pin and get defeated, not Asuka. It's New York City we're talking about. You're right there in the middle of Manhattan. Do not have Asuka lose and protect Charlotte Flair. Just do the deed and get out. Try to be as unscathed as possible. They had Charlotte do the deed, and that was the only call they could have made. Or there would have been some heat on the company after that one. Drew McIntyre defeated No Way Jose, and Randy Orton defeated AJ Styles with an RKO. Then we saw some more Vikings and OCBS afterwards. The Viking Adventure actually defeated the OC and the Street Profits in a triple threat when Anderson took and ate the L, and that was the whole night of action. So it was pretty solid, actually. You know, you saw some rift-raft and shit you didn't need to see, like that tag team match I just talked about with the Viking Adventure in a triple threat match, the handicap 24/7 title kind of match. You know, there was some stuff that you would see, the Bobby Lashley BS. There was the shit you would see on Monday Night Raw and kind of roll your eyes back. You saw some of that in New York City last night, but for the most part, when you talk the triple threat women's match, that was actually pretty solid. The Kevin Owens-Seth Rollins match, pretty solid. Obviously, that championship match with Andrade and Mysterio, and the title actually changed hands, pretty fucking solid. So, all in all, a huge night in New York City last night. I know what you're asking. BC, do you regret not going? No, not at all. Because I stand by my decision. They have not earned my time. They have not earned my money. Yes, there are times where I'm like, oh, that would have been cool. Oh, man, that would have been really neat to see live. But at the end of the day, it's standing by my decision, and I would have done it all over again until WWE starts showing me that I should be handing over my money, I should be giving them my time. I'm not going to show up to house shows. Pay-per-views, Raw, SmackDown, that's even a stretch. But at least I'll consider that. But house shows, you better be bringing a lot more to the table. Before I end this video, guys, that was just the bulk of it, and a congrats to Andrade. But again, there's that hesitation and reservation of, Andrade's big moment was at a house show. So there is some of that. It does taint it a little bit, but let me know. I can fucking speak. I need another coffee. Let me know what side of the spectrum you guys are on, man. Do you think titles changing hands at house shows, as long as it's once in a blue moon, that's okay? Or do you think that should never happen? I want to talk Goldberg real quick. He finally is opening up about the whole Bret Hart situation. You guys know the deal. He kicked Bret Hart so hard that Hart's career was pretty much finished after that. I think Hart had a couple of matches afterwards, but that didn't do him any good or any better. But the whole start of the process really came from that missed kick by Goldberg, the botch. I guess it didn't miss at all. It landed square. And Goldberg took a lot of heat. The rest of his career, he still takes a lot of heat to this day. A lot of people still call him Greenberg. So Goldberg opened up a little bit, and this is what he said, and I quote, he said, "You know what happened, happened. There have been things said on the internet by Bret or by other people that I was malicious or that he shouldn't have been in the ring with me. And I'm really sorry, man. I really am. But if I really wanted to hurt the guy, he wouldn't have gotten up. No joke. But accidents happen. My inability to be professional enough to pull the kick, but it meant very much to me to be believable." But he admits it was his inability to be professional, even though he quoted it, to pull his kick. He admitted that he just didn't pull his kick, so it's not really a botch. It was just him being too green. Him not knowing the situation, him not being safe with his fellow worker. He's coming out and finally admitting that. That's pretty cool. He's already said sorry in the past. Right? He already said, my bad, my mistake, I can't go back and change things, what happened, happened. But for him to admit that he just didn't pull it, he wasn't safe enough. That is what a lot of people wanted to hear. It doesn't change things. But a lot of people wanted him to know that they wanted him to understand what happened. Not just say it was a botch or it was a mistimed kick or he could have done a little different maybe. No, he literally says he didn't pull the kick. And if you don't pull your punch or pull your kick, you're probably going to hurt somebody like Nia Jax did to Becky Lynch. And I can go over a list of 1,000 other times that it's happened. So he's finally saying that, but that goes back to the original question. Should Goldberg have been in the ring with somebody like Bret Hart to begin with, when everybody was already calling him Greenberg? But on the other side of it, right, this is the same thing when Andrade winning a championship at a house show. And I say there's two different sides of it, right? There's the people that agree with that decision as long as it's once in a blue moon. And there's the people that think titles should never change at house shows. Same thing with Goldberg. There's people that say he should have never been in the ring with somebody like Bret Hart. But on the other side of it, there's people saying that's what people were paying money to go to the arenas for. To see those 2-minute squashes of Goldberg. To see Goldberg be literally bashful. To see Goldberg not pull shit. To see Goldberg be as believable and realistic as possible. And that's cool. I love dudes like that, like Brock Lesnar. The point is, and the fact of the matter is, you still have to protect your superstar. You have to find, right, it's the magic within the show. You have to find a way to be believable as fucking realistic as fuck, while at the same time protecting your fellow superstar. Goldberg couldn't master that. He just wanted to be believable as possible and as realistic as possible, but he didn't want to protect his fellow superstar. It wasn't just Bret Hart. That was just the most notable name that he injured. But he's injured many people throughout his career, including himself numerous times for ramming his own dome piece through a fucking wall or through a door or through a ring post. But many people say, even at the end of Goldberg's career, and Goldberg says he's still not finished. He still wants to wrestle a few more matches. And people are still calling him Greenberg. And people are still saying he does not know how to pull shit, and he doesn't know how to wrestle properly. So if that was your son, your daughter, or your fucking whoever, your family member, your friend, would you put them in a ring with Goldberg? My question to you, would you trust anybody in there with Goldberg? It's a valid question. And again, everybody's on a different side of the spectrum with this. But the fact that he's finally opening up a little bit more, speaking about it and saying, hey, my bad, I am remorseful, I should have pulled my kick. You know, that's a start at least in him knowing what went wrong. Not just saying, oh, it was a botch, it was just an accident. You know, and other people, they can lighten up a little bit on him. A lot of people were a little too hard on Goldberg. The bottom line is you don't know how remorseful somebody is, right? When something happens to someone else and they did bad, everybody else wants to jump on until they feel they're remorseful enough. But how do you know what's going on internally with them in their dome piece? How do you know how remorseful they are? They could be very, very sorry, very remorseful, and they have a different way to show it to the world because they feel they have to put on kind of a little bit of a facade. Show that you're stronger than you really are internally with the whole situation. And everybody jumped on him because he wasn't showing that remorse. But he's kind of showing it in this interview. What happened, happened. I'm sorry, man. He literally says, and I'm really sorry, man. He's like, accidents happen. I should have pulled my kick. You know, what more do you want from the guy? You know what I mean? I think we can now pretty much put the little bow on this thing and send this away. You know what I mean? Wrap it up once and for all, and let's be done with that whole conversation. Goldberg or Greenberg, whatever color you put on this guy, the bottom line is, after decades, can we put an end to this conversation? Couple more stories before we end this, guys. Vince McMahon, it is being reported now that he's high on Rowan. We know he's high on Humberto. That was a report put out a few weeks ago. And judging by Humberto's booking, it looks like Vince is high on Humberto. Well, now it's looking like he's high on Eric Rowan now. But I asked the question, and that's awesome, because I want to see guys like Rowan get a little bit of a push, and let's see what they really have. But my question is this a reactionary decision now that he's already lost Luke Harper? No offense to Rowan, but out of the two, I would have taken Luke Harper way before I would have picked Eric Rowan on my team of anything. An athletic endeavor or a game of fucking dominoes or Monopoly. I'm picking Luke Harper. And Luke Harper fell through the cracks, is no longer with the company. And I think Vince and them are starting to think, he could show up somewhere else and they could utilize his talents to the umpth degree. So now, are they going to try to make Rowan their Luke Harper, if that makes sense? My question is timing of this. Eric Rowan has been in your company for the longest time. You haven't given him the time of day. Now all of a sudden, we're hearing reports that they're going to make something out of Rowan. Fishy timing after you just lost Luke Harper. That's all I'm asking. But it doesn't matter at the end of the day. This is just another flavor of the month for Vince McMahon. I'm sure by the end of January 2020, there'll be somebody new. No Way Jose will be his main eventer on Raw. On the other side of the spectrum, Tony Khan. It is being reported that he's going to be taking on a bigger role with the Jacksonville Jaguars. We all know his father owns that team. Tony Khan already had a big position within that organization. Now it's looking at like 2020, Tony Khan will be taking on even more responsibilities for that organization. That has nothing to do with AEW, and we already knew that Tony Khan was sharing the responsibilities of AEW anyway. Well, now the question has to be asked because it's pretty obvious that Tony Khan's role with AEW will be even more diminished. And the day-to-day operations will be even more out of Tony Khan's hands. Is he going to try to do a Vince McMahon double juggling act with XFL in the WWE? Now he's taking on even more responsibility with the Jaguars, but he's supposed to make AEW even better than what it is right now? And it drastically needs to be better than it is right now? But without Tony Khan and outside influence making those changes and adjustments and switching things up, now you just have pretty much the inmates running that asylum, right? You just have the wrestlers, those EVPs, Cody and the Bucks and Omega. They're all running the ship now. And I know they half are anyway, but now you're giving them even more responsibility. Is that the way to go? I'm asking. Is that the way to go? Sometimes you need a guy at the helm who's kind of steering you in the right ways, in right directions, when you're kind of headed the wrong way. And what I mean by that is you could have 75% of your ideas, your creativities. 75% could be awesome, but the other 25% you could be going off the rails. You need somebody like Tony Khan to just be like, hey, dude, you might want to, you know what I mean? Like WWE has had Vince McMahon in that role for the longest time, right? Vince was the final, whether it was Vince Russo or anybody, any 217 of his current creative writers, Vince McMahon is the final say. Now, yes, as the past several years have shown us, Vince McMahon should not be that guy anymore. But for the longest time, it was Vince, and that was the way to go. You know, you kind of have to have somebody that wasn't one of the boys kind of leading the ship and kind of saying, hey, man, I totally get what you're saying as one of the boys, but we kind of need to do this for these purposes. With Tony Khan kind of leading more and more out of that role, you are literally just going to be having those inmates running things. It's kind of scary. It could be cool on one hand. On the other hand, I've seen this kind of play out in WCW, and it didn't end well. Hopefully AEW has learned from that and goes a totally different direction, but it remains to be seen. But it looks like Tony Khan is taking on something huge with the Jaguars. So football is going to be Tony Khan's main focus in 2020, just like football is going to be Vince McMahon's main focus in 2020 with the XFL. Where does this leave pro wrestling? If you ask me, it leads us in a much bigger pickle, in a much bigger, worse position than in 2019, in years previous. This puts us in a very bad predicament when the leaders, their mindsets are somewhere totally different. Yowie wowie. That's not good. We'll see. We got to let this shit play out, right? We're already talking in the community about 2020. We have to just wait and see now, man. We have to see what January kicks us off with and see. Then we can kind of see the trajectory of both companies. The pro wrestling world as a whole, actually, every fucking company. We can kind of see where their minds are at starting in January. And then we'll be able to speak about it in much more great detail and depth. That's what I got for you guys here, man. I know I said 20 minutes. I probably went fucking 30 at least. Who knows? You know, once I start talking pro wrestling, it's on. Since I'm back in action here, guys, I might actually just do the Friday SmackDown review video within the next 24 hours. So when SmackDown leaves the airwaves, check the channel. I wasn't planning on doing a review video for SmackDown because I wasn't even planning on being back with you guys for the rest of 2019. Not until 2020 was I going to be back. But since I'm back, like I said, we don't half-ass it. We're going to go full throttle. I might just do the fucking SmackDown review in the next 24 hours. So be on the lookout on the channel. Much love to you guys. I'll see you guys when I see you. The Amplified Man, baby. Yeah. Ow. Ow. Check you later.